today we will start by reading the translation of some ayahs in Surah Al-Isra. And what we will read later on, inshallah, there will be obvious relevance to the passage we read. Brother Sheikh, can you read that?
In the recital we send down, there is comfort and mercy for the faithful, but it only makes the wrongdoers more shameful. And when we are gracious to man, he takes it for granted and goes on his way. Yet when harm touches him, he is hopeless. Say, everyone is at work in their own direction, and your Lord knows best whose path is on course. Still, they ask you about the Spirit. Say, the Spirit is part of my Lord's business, and whatever knowledge you've been given is just a little. And if we chose to, we could even take away what we have revealed to you, and you would find no one to reclaim it. It's just a mercy from your Lord. His favor to you has been tremendous. Say, even if all mankind and jinn assemble to come up with something like this Quran, they wouldn't come up with anything like it, not even if they worked together. And we have spelled out for people in this recital every kind of lesson, yet most of them insist on denial. Most of them insist on denial, saying, we will not have faith in you until you make a spring burst out of the grounds for us, or until you have an orchard of palms and grapevines, and make rivers rush all through it, or make the sky come falling down on us in pieces as you claimed, or show us God and the angels face to face, or have a house of jewels, or rise into the sky. Even then, we will not acknowledge your rise. We will not acknowledge your rise unless you bring a document back down for us to read. Say, bless my Lord, am I anything but a mortal, a messenger? And is what they say the only thing stopping people from having faith after salvation came to them, that God called on a mortal to be a messenger? Say, if there were angels walking about on earth in comfort, we would have sent them an angel down from heaven as a messenger. Say, God is witness enough between me and you. He is well aware of his servants, ever watching.
Last week we read a few examples of some physical aggression that some of the leaders of Quraysh practiced against our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What we'll read today, I guess in one way it's not as bad as that. We'll read about a few diplomatic courses that some of the authorities in Quraysh took to, according to their point of view, try to come to terms with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sister Ikram, can you read this first example? The next page, yeah.
Yazid bin Ziyad from Hamad bin Ka'b al-Qurayzi told me that he was told that one day
this is not directly related to what we're talking about, but what does Qurayzi mean on that name? What's that?
He's from Bani Qurayza.
From Bani Qurayza. And one interesting thing here is that those two narratives, both of them are Jewish, ethnically Jewish. Muhammad ibn Ka'b al-Qurayzi and the one who is quoting him, they're both ethnically from Banu Qurayza. I continue.
One day, Aswad al-Rabi'a, who was a council member, spoke from his seat in Quraysh's assembly.
Who is Utbah ibn Rabi'a? Sisters want to find out. Who is Utbah ibn Rabi'a? No, not Makhzum. If you can find it.
Hashim.
Not Hashim, but close to Hashim.
Have to go back.
one of the brothers of
Yeah, Abd Shams, we read about him last week.
Abd Shams, one of the brothers of Hashim. And who was he?
He was the one we read about him last week.
He was in one of the groups we read about last week. Who is he related to?
Related to a lot of people.
Distantly, I mean, they're from the same section. His daughter, for example, is Hind bint Utbah, who is married to
Abu Sufyan.
Abu Sufyan.
Okay. Abu Sufyan's father-in-law.
Exactly, Abu Sufyan's father-in-law. And so Hind is the mother of most of the Muawiyah, is most famous. Also, he's the father of a man named Abu Hudayfa. I think that we neglected him when we were talking about the very earliest Muslims, but Abu Hudayfa, and if that name was not there, that should be added underneath Utbah. Abu Hudayfa, one of his sons, was one of the very first Muslims, one of the very first faithful. And Utbah is maybe one of the most powerful men in Quraysh at the top. His name will come up quite a few times after this. Continue.
So one day, Arsalan who was a council member, spoke from his seat in Quraysh's assembly, while God's messenger, Allah, عليه وسلم, was sitting in the prayer hall by himself, saying, "Members of Quraysh, I propose to approach Muhammad and offer him a number of concessions on our part, any of which he accepts to be granted in full on the condition that he leave us alone."
The way that this is worded here is very striking. What is the request that he's making of him? He says he's going to. What does he want from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
To leave their faith and
No, what did he say?
offer.
To leave us alone.
Leave us alone.
That's what the quote says. Yakuf anna. What is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam doing right now?
Praying.
Praying by himself, staying by himself. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Continue.
This happened when Hamza had accepted Islam and they saw that the followers of God's messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam were spreading and multiplying.
And who is Hamza?
The uncle of Prophet.
The uncle. That's in Hashim. Hamza is right next to Alaykum Salam. تأخرت. معلش. جزاك الله خير. Hamza is much younger than Abu Talib. I think he was only a few years older than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Hamza was a very big deal. He packed a punch, so to say, and that was a big difference when he became Muslim. And the story of how he became Muslim is the traditional story is well known, and you can read it in that book. Continue.
The council approved, so Utbah went and sat by God's messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "My nephew, you know who you are among us, a key community member from a prominent family. Yet you have done such a monstrous thing to our community. You have driven a wedge between them. You have mocked their culture. You have blasphemed their gods and their religion, and you have cursed their fathers."
These two sentences that, what is the point of saying those two things? Saying that you're in such and such a position, yet you did this? Why would he, as much as we don't want to sympathize with him, just for the point of understanding the passage, why would he lead off with that?
Perhaps otherwise it wouldn't be that big of a deal because he's not such an influential member of the community.
apparently, it seems like it's like in a lot of situations, someone who is in a position of being a role model, and if the president of a country or a senator or someone who is in a specific position who's looked up to does something, it's more serious than if another person does it. And apparently this is, he's very skilled in negotiating, and so he starts off by setting the groundwork according to where he's coming from, who has done the wrong according to him. Continue.
So hear me out. I will present some offers to you, and perhaps you will be able to agree to something. The messenger said, "Go ahead, Abdul Walid, I'm listening." Or Abu Walid, actually. I'm listening. So Ashba went on saying words to this effect. If what you want is money, we will hand over to you enough of our own property to make you richer than anyone else. If you want to have influence, we can appoint you to a position where we won't decide anything without your approval. If you want to have a dynasty, we will declare you king. And if this is a force which comes to you, which is beyond our control or your control, we will find treatment for you and exhaust our means in getting you cured. For often a familiar spirit gets possession of a man until he has to seek therapy. The messenger...
Again, these are the charges that we've read before. That according to them, yes, that he has done such and such. He's divided them, and he's defamed their fathers and spoken ill about their gods and their religion. That's what they